Hi, welcome to With Respect, the show where we talk about stuff in martial arts you wouldn't normally talk about for fear of being seen as disrespectful. I have got an anonymous guest with me today. We're going to call him Kevin because that's what he wants to be called, and that sounds like a great name to me. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, so my name is Kevin. I've been training in martial arts now for about 20 years. I've got 3 black belts in karate, kickboxing and taekwondo.
You got much of a history in any particular art? Have you got a favourite? Do you compete in one specifically?
Compete in taekwondo a lot. That's kind of what my most recent ones have been. Grew up mainly doing karate, so I did that for a good 15 years and then ventured out into the other two. I got my black belt in those afterwards.
Awesome. Okay, so you obviously come on with a story like every specific guest. This is one that I have been bragging to people about for a little while because I've been very excited about the uniqueness of it. Yes, I have been talking about it. So, what would you like to tell us about today?
So this is a story from one of my martial art clubs. I'm not going to say which discipline or where it's based for obvious reasons, but we would do something that we called sparring bar, which anyone who's included will know who I am instantly from the name. We would basically show up, do our training as usual, typically for about an hour, maybe 2 hours. We would then proceed to not drink anything during the trainings. We'd dehydrate ourselves as much as we could, and then proceed to go out to the bar, get a couple of pints down us, and as anyone in the UK will attest to, when you've got a few pints down you, the bag looks tasty. So we would 9 times out of 10, someone would pull out a bag and would disappear one at a time and go into the bathroom and partake in some confectionery, if you will, some extracurricular activities. And we'd enjoy ourselves like that. But on more than one occasion, we went back to our dojo and proceeded to carry on training while all of us were either drunk or high.
So, inebriated.
Very inebriated.
And was this a tradition before or after you joined the club?
This was a tradition that I kind of went in on. I think it kind of like picked up more once I started to go, because we made it more of a regular thing to go out and drink afterwards.
You made it more appealing.
Yeah, we made it more appealing to do. So we definitely had a rough few mornings afterwards, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, and I have questions, obviously.
Of course.
We're going to run through these at the most detailed level because I'm dying to know. Okay, first one. Mm-hmm. Who brought the Coke?
It was actually it would have been one of the senseis. So one of the senseis that I trained with would typically pick it up. I paid for it like maybe once.
I can't imagine it's been included in your regular training fees.
No, yeah, it's not covered by the training fees, unfortunately.
It's not covered by insurance.
No, we tried to run it past insurance, but they just said no.
No, of course not. Okay, what was the normal sort of numbers we were looking at, and what was the demographic of the people who partook in sparring bar?
There were about 5 of us. Like in the class itself, there'd be a good 25 of us, got 30. You know, it was a big class, and then it was typically the more advanced fighters that, you know, we're all like in our late 20s, early 30s, you know, bit more rambunctious, bit more playful.
The cool kids who need a debuff.
The cool kids. But yeah, everyone who went knew what was going on. The owner of the club came sometimes. To his credit, he didn't partake, but he knew what was going on. He knew we were having fun.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, he was speaking of evil, see no evil kind of guy. Yeah, it was typically like one of the senseis or like someone would just, call someone up.
So, the head of the dojang knew.
Mm-hmm.
The chief sensei was normally the one who was bringing it. When you were initiated into sparring bar, did someone pull you aside? Was it a bit like Fight Club? Was it an unspoken thing? What was the sort of...
It was very much unspoken but very obvious what was going on. It was like things were being passed under the table, all this kind of stuff. Like I've had experience with drugs in the past, so I could kind of pick up on people all of a sudden being a lot more active and, outgoing, more than a couple of pints of Stella should really make you feel.
Okay.
So I kind of knew there was something going on. And yeah, I think I went into the bathroom and they just pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, listen, do you wanna join in?" I was like, "Of course I do. Of course I do."
This is not your typical after-school special of Don't Do Drugs Kids. I was the boring person who doesn't really enjoy like getting like completely obliterated on a regular basis. I can't imagine myself ever wanting. I don't even do a drink the night before a competition because normally everyone meets up for a meal to eat together and then some people will have a few beers or something. I never drink before I compete. I rarely drink after I compete, but I also do the thing of, yeah, I'm dehydrated, let's get pissed on the cheap.
Well, I would also throw this in is we used to smoke before competitions.
Why?
To help us relax. So we would smoke marijuana before we competed.
Definitely not allowed.
Yeah, definitely not allowed, but at the same time, it just helps, it just helps you relax.
Did it help? Did you win?
Yeah, it definitely helped. It was, yeah. And obviously it was one of those, it was very much unspoken about, but it definitely goes on behind the scenes. It wouldn't put me past it if top athletes do it to an extent.
I mean, I absolutely know some stoner athletes, but I don't think I've ever seen them before they go on the mats.
No, yeah, like you do it, like you don't get obliteratedly like stoned. You have a few puffs here and there, and it just helps you just calm down into a fight. Because we've all been there where we stand at the edge of that mat, sweating, nervous, tense, especially if it's a big fight and you've not mentally prepped for it. So yeah, we've done that a few times. But
sparring bar is the opposite because we brings you down and chill, and Coke takes you up and you're hype. So go on.
I can't really explain it. It was just a bit of fun, to be honest. And going back to the dojo afterwards, and training with each other and like learning new kicks, it just kind of gave us the confidence to really rework some stuff that we maybe struggled with, confidence-wise.
What's something you struggled with that you felt was improved by this practice?
Oh, definitely like my jumping spinning kicks. My God, I was in the air like nothing else. I was jumping all over the place.
Are you sure you were, or do you just think you were?
Oh no, we we took videos and all that kind of stuff. We've definitely got some footage somewhere on someone's phone of us just being menaces.
Obviously, I can't show the footage, but you have to show me this footage.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be on my phone anymore, but it might be out there.
Okay. So how often would this happen?
Every week.
Like on the weekly schedule, you would all go after training?
Yeah, there were like 4 sessions a week, and we'd have it on at least one. We'd do it like maximum of 1 a week, but it would be like midweek as well. It's not like I was going out on a Friday night doing it. I'd do it and then have work in the morning. I have to wake up at crack of dawn, go into work, do my 9 to 5, and
What kind of work?
I think at the time I was working in banks and things like that, just 9 to 5 jobs.
Okay, so proper office type.
Yeah, like I've always worked in offices, but yeah, trying to show up after you've done that kind of stuff, always rough.
I mean, it's normally the high-end executives who are doing that actively in the office.
Exactly. So. I just wanted to get in with the good crowd. I wanted to get that pay rise and that promotion.
Did it work?
No, did it help? No. It derailed me massively. Don't do drugs. I'll say that much.
Don't do drugs. YouTube will demonetize this.
Yeah,
but that's fine because we're getting the message out there.
Yeah, 100% don't do drugs. Everything that I'm talking about now was not a good idea. I definitely regret what I did.
Even though it made your jumping kicks a lot.
Yeah, it led to very good stories, but at the same time, it definitely put my health at risk. And that was something I was very aware of while I was doing it.
And at some point, you obviously stopped going to weekly sparring bar. Was this because you started seeing an effect, or were you just not in the area anymore?
I started to see an effect, so I stopped going to sparring bar as much. Because I knew it was starting to affect my work life, my personal relationships a little bit, because it was just so often. And yeah, eventually I just kind of moved out the area. Didn't move too far away, but it was far enough where I could be like, okay, I'll distance myself from this.
Okay, so in terms of affecting your relationships, I can totally understand that because we all know that drugs do not necessarily lead to close bonds with partners. But what about your relationships with the people you are sparring with? Because as someone who
Oh,
hasn't done a lot of drugs, surely the rage.
100 times better. Like, I would say the friendships that I like built through it were dramatically increased because we'd seen each other in, very, very good lights. And typically, whenever we did the drugs, we were always in a good mental place. Yeah, we were exhausted and we'd just been fighting. But I think, if anything, the fact that we'd just been fighting put us in a better mental state. Because anything negative that you've got inside of you, you get out when you're sparring. And on top of that, the best bit, like, even when I first started doing it, I wasn't doing the drugs. I was just going out drinking. But it meant that, you'd break someone's nose or you'd bust someone up and then you'd go out and buy them a pint. And
Definitely get the endorphin highs with that one.
Yeah, I feel like as a guy, there's no better friendship you can have than to beat the daylight out of someone and then still walk away knowing that you're best friends and buy each other pints.
I mean, yes, I like that. I have definitely had relationships with people of that nature. Although with the girls, I always offer a hug after a sparring match. I have regularly had my hugs rejected by some salty bitches.
We did have girls joining with us on sparring bar as well.
How many?
Like two or three. They would show up every now and then. But yeah, they were definitely there. And they joined in just as much. We put gloves on and we beat the daylights out of each other before we were drunk and intoxicated and after we were drunk and intoxicated.
I mean, good. I've always been a cross-sparring. Like, if they let me compete with the blokes, I would do. One time I got called the week before a competition for them to be like, we don't have a fight for you. We cannot find anyone in your division. You're the only heavyweight of your skill level. We might not have a fight for you, and you're coming all the way down to Kent to do it. And I was like, ask the dudes. Like, my heaviest weight division match is like the middleweights for the blokes. They just let me go in with the dude. They did get me fights eventually, but like, when people say that they only train with their gender, I think that's so stupid. Like, the girls only sparring classes, women's self-defense.
I think, especially like the whole idea of women's self-defense to me is ridiculous.
It's so stupid because the women who want to do it are scared of men. So scared. Why would you not train with men to be prepared for wild men?
Yeah, it's not like every single guy out there is going to be trying to attack you. However, it's one of those things, it only takes one. And if the only person you fought against, I had this issue when I was training, because when I was training karate, and for so long, it was no contact or very little contact. Like, we couldn't punch the face, but we could hit the body. And when I transferred over to kickboxing for the first time, it was full contact. And because of that, I wasn't used to hitting people or getting hit. So the idea of going to a women's only class where you're not learning how to strike someone properly or how to take a hit off someone who is bigger than you is ridiculous.
Because people don't victimize people their size either.
Yeah, no, like in any kind of martial arts club, if it's a good club, they'll try and partner you up with people your size 9 times out of 10. But then they will also put you with people smaller than you so that you can learn to control yourself, and people who are much bigger than you, so that you can learn how to take a decent hit off someone who's a lot stronger.
Oh, I love, because every time someone will get a good shot of me and they'll be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah,
it's fine. It's why
are you stopping?
It's why we're here.
Yeah. Why would you apologize for what I signed up for?
Yeah. I remember the first time I got smashed in the face, and I was like dazed by it. I was like, whoa, this is so different to what I'm used to. But at the same time, the guy was apologetic, obviously, because he could tell I wasn't used to it. But I was also like, no, this is what, I'm here to do, is learn this new style of fighting and how to do it.
When I've trained with kids, they don't, like, when you train with a kid, you don't really aim to hit them, you kind of just stick your leg up and you go, get around me.
Yeah.
But I have told them, like, before we start, just hit me. And they still don't want to, so you have to.
I will say, like, some of the most terrifying people I've trained have been kids. Like, there have been some kids that I've fought against who, even as like a grown man, they've done a pretty decent job of jumping up and kicking me in the face.
How old?
We're talking like 11, 12 years old, and I'm like maybe 25 at the time.
Oh, they got all the time in the world, though. Kids can just train and go to school, and they have no other life.
No, they've got no other life, and they're like just, especially if you get a kid that's like grown up in martial arts. Like, I started when I was 7, But if you get a kid that like their dad's a martial artist,
Oh, they own
they're
the club.
like literally from the second they can walk, they're throwing kicks, and I think they grow up in such an environment that isn't so much more inspiring to them about martial arts. Because if your parents aren't interested in it, you're not going to be like, shown all these cool things. If your dad is Arnold Schwarzenegger, you are going to love bodybuilding, obviously, because it's all you're going to grow up with. You're not going to like CrossFit, because no one likes CrossFit, but then your dad's Arnold Schwarzenegger and a bodybuilder. So it's the same thing. It's like your parents aren't into, Taekwondo or whatever discipline you want to learn. You're not going to be influenced by them in the same way that if they are into that. And
I actually have a big theory about the indoctrination process, because I have friends who are martial artists who are parents, and I've seen some of them who they do start them training from the offset, and the kids so far seem to like it. But I actually agree with the idea that you let them cook for a couple of years. You just let them observe. You don't even try and mention coming to class. Like, maybe they come and watch because the other parent's busy and you need to sit in reception. But wait till they ask, and then when they're like 6, 7, go, this is a life skill like swimming, and then just see if they latch.
Yeah, I feel like if you grow up around it, you're more likely to get into it, and you're more likely to enjoy it as well. I've got a few friends who came to martial arts and didn't enjoy it. It's not for everyone, especially when you're fighting and you get punched in the face for the first time. Not everyone enjoys it.
It's actually interesting in my family, because we have no history of martial arts training in my family. My club came to do a demo at my primary school, and we're all in like this one big group assembly. It was just the one demo. So me and my brother were both in the same hall, but he was a couple of years younger than me, so he was like a little close to the front because they line you up like that, whatever.
I remember that.
And we both left the assembly with a little leaflet and were like, I want to go try this class. So we went to my mum and we both want to try this out. I finished the first class and was like, oh my god, I love that. I want to go back right now. My brother, never again. And all we really learned how to do was how to punch properly without crushing your thumb in like the first 3 white belt kicks.
The classic.
It's so good. We got off topic from sparring bar a little bit.
Yeah, sparring
I have
bar.
more questions.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to know, you said you sparred with women.
Yeah.
Did you see a change in their demeanor or your demeanor compared to when you're in a normal class? Other than the confidence, do you feel like you exhibited like more like adrenaline, fury? Because people sometimes, that you should never spar angry, but this feels like an environment where there are no rules. Like, did you have sparring rules? Did you abide by the normal point system?
Not really, no. Like in reality, when we were in the class, we had mouth guards in, we had headgear on, gloves, all this kind of stuff. When we went back, like after the bar, we had gloves on and that was it. And we'd be just decking each other.
No footgear?
No, like we didn't put anything. We literally just grabbed our gloves.
So if you did a head kick, there was no padding?
Yeah, we just have absolute fun with it. We'd get pads out and like do practice drills and all this kind of. There was like still some kind of order to it. Because I feel like when you've been doing it for so long, it doesn't matter what mental state you're in. If you're slightly competent, you'll follow some kind of order. But I think we were all kind of loosed enough not to know not to, knock someone unconscious.
Yeah, there is a degree of muscle memory and self-control that will just be inherently in you.
Yeah, and I feel like if anything, doing it while intoxicated really showed more self-control than doing it sober.
I have a theory, right? Because most self-defense situations IRL, I had an interview a few weeks ago. Maybe it'll been published about a month ago by the time this goes out. But the dude described like 3 scenarios where he was out drinking on a night out and he was in a conflict. So you could argue that this is the most realistic self-defense training you could ever do.
Yes. I will say that any street fights I've been in have been while I've been drunk, never while I've been on any other drugs. And I think that's purely because I think it's one of those, when you know how to fight, it's the one thing you don't want to do. I always say to people, I'm not like, yeah, I can fight, but it's not like I want to fight.
No one's ever seeking conflict. You should always know how to exit a situation.
Yeah, I think if you are, especially a competitive fighter at a high level, you should not be looking out for fights. Like, always be aware of your surroundings, don't get me wrong. But, like, the first thing you should get taught is how to get out of fights. And I think when we were, like, intoxicated, drunk, doing whatever we were doing, putting up our noses, anything like that, we I think that's, if anything, that's why we went back to the dojo, to avoid being put in situations where we could potentially end up in street fights.
What, so everyone's all rowdy, back to the corral, kids?
Yeah, because that's the thing. We were all black belts. All of us were like first dan, second dan, third dan. All of us have experience being in street fights. So it's not like if you've ever been in a street fight, you know that your first one is the worst one. You're always like, it's terrifying. When you're in it, it's terrifying afterwards. You know? So all of us have been in that situation when we all know how to deal with it.
I have not been in a street fight.
I don't recommend it. It's not fun.
I've been told I give off an aura of stay the fuck away.
Well, that was the thing, is we would obviously show up at a pub with all of our gear, so people knew that we were fighters, and that just invites trouble.
It does, because people be like, oh, you think you're hard, do you?
Yeah, exactly. People are like, oh, you think you're hard. The issue is when you've got 5, 6, 7 black belts, it's gonna, you know, if it gets into a street fight, it's gonna be a disaster for, like, you know, you and everyone else. Like the legal repercussions that would come of it as well.
Oh, definitely legal repercussions.
Yeah, that's something that we always thought about as well. That's why we kind of like, once we got to a certain point, we always left, because with that, like, you know, I think there were a few instances where it got close to people like trying to start things with us and like trying to, you know, little comments and things like that. And we were just like, we need to walk away. That's the best thing we can do.
Good, correct response. I want to know though, if you're in a group fight scenario, does hierarchy prevail at all? Like if you've got like a senior Dan, are they leading the charge?
No, like I do know that they did get into fights before I started going, and they've been in a few situations, and it's been group fights and things like that. And from what I know with those situations it was just you picked whoever was in front of you and you went to town on them. And as soon as they were down, you moved on to the next person. And you helped out whoever was closest to you to take down them, and so on and so on. But once again, a lot of street fights are over very fast. And, you know, typically one person gets hurt, people try to calm it down. You know, there'll always be someone in the group that doesn't want to fight, and they'll try and calm things down as the fight's going on. So, or at least that's what I've always found when I've had them. So yeah, luckily I never got into those situations where that was a thing. Yeah, and if anything, I would have tried to avoid it at all cost anyway.
Okay.
You know.
So you've had big emotional repercussions, psychological repercussions, big life experiences. Did you ever actually get hurt during these sessions?
Yeah, definitely. Like, even if it was just being stupid and like trying to do kick and you land wrong, you know, you land on your knee or your face or your elbow.
I have one friend who's buckled his knee just from landing weird in a normal session.
Yeah, like the injuries we had were like minor. I imagine we probably got a few concussions over the way from like just punching each other in the face or kicking each other in the face.
Punch drunk is a thing.
Yeah, like but in the moment, because we were either really drunk or we were doing drugs. It's also worth mentioning we did them inside the dojo as well. So the dojo had CCTV, but it also had a bathroom, and we would take it in turns to go into the bathroom and do drugs in the dojo.
This is like out of the worst sitcom ever.
Yeah, like we would like one at a time just go in, you know, do some, and then come back out and be like, whoa, let's go.
I don't know how you discreetly hand off drugs other than the cheesy handshake scenario.
It's literally that kind of stuff, like. But at the same time, it was like, we all knew what was going on, so we just slide it under the table. In some cases, we weren't even discreet. We literally just handed it to each other over the table.
Just assumed the owner was not going to shut the cameras
well, the owners have better things to do. They're not going to, as long as we don't cause any trouble, they're not going to go through the fucking cameras and be like, oh, were they doing drugs? You know, even if they thought like, oh, they're on drugs, they'd be like, just leave the premises, just get out. Because we were regulars. They knew us. You know, we were there the same day every week. So
what would have been procedure if someone overdosed, though?
I mean, I think this is an important question anywhere. Whether you're in a dojo, whether you're at a friend's house or with family or wherever you are, you need to remember that if someone is overdosing, paramedics are not there to tell you off. You call 999, you call whatever emergency number you need, and you deal with the consequences that you've done something stupid and one of you is now in danger. And yeah, you deal with it as you need to.
I mean, every medical drama in the world has an episode of "You ain't gonna rat me out, are you?"
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the doctors are never there to tell you off. If the police show up and you've got cocaine everywhere or you've got tons of drugs everywhere, obviously you're gonna get in trouble, and you shouldn't put yourself in a situation where that's gonna happen. We were always smart with what we were doing. We always knew how much we could handle. We always knew what we were getting and who we were getting it from. While what we were doing was not safe, we tried to make it as safe as we could. Not giving advice to anyone, but if you are going to mess around with stuff, always know who you're buying from. You don't want to get spiked with anything. That's what causes overdose.
I mean, how do you know if you're going to get spiked or something? You would tend to assume you get the product you pay for.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. Usually you get the product you pay for. However, if you go to someone you've not been before and they're a dodgy guy, dodgy girl, whoever it is, they can lace it with fentanyl. That's happened quite a few times now. Obviously not to me or anyone that I know, but I know over in the US it's becoming a real situation. I've had pills laced with other things as well, just because you buy it off the wrong person. So, always be around friends and be in safe situations. It's worth noting that at a sparring bar, there was usually one person that was sober at all times.
That is definitely worth noting.
It's worth noting. Like,
it doesn't make it loads better.
No, it doesn't make it loads better, but there was always one or two people that didn't partake. Like, we had people who did it every single time, but then we also had people, like I did it a few times where I just didn't do anything. I was just there for the ride and just, had a few pints, but I was just there to enjoy myself more than anything.
And it's pretty standard to be first aid trained for any adult at this point.
Yes.
But do you know if these sober people were first aid trained?
I don't imagine they were.
Okay. Normally it's the instructors who are first aid trained.
Yeah, like I was first aid trained, but that's just, because I was an instructor like many years ago. So, yeah.
Okay, I would like to raise a more societal question now. You say you would sometimes have a little puff before competitions.
Yes.
Of weed, but any single time I've gone to a competition, it's really rare that they do anything beyond check your name off a list. If they're feeling fancy that day, you get a little wristband. Say, I am a competitor, this is my competitor colour, I'm allowed on the mats past the barrier, because they don't even all have barriers. If there's a weigh-in, it's sort of optional in that when I have been late to an event because I'm not in an area I'm familiar with, I got lost, I was walking and it was pouring it down and there was a really steep slope. Like, they said I missed weigh-in and I got lucky because I was in the heavyweight, so they just sort of can assume that I am a heavyweight because it's like 70 plus kilo, whatever. But there are medics on site, but there's never any sort of medical screening for the majority of martial arts competitions in the UK. So what do you think would be any kind of procedure if someone suspected that their opponent was taking drugs before they got on the mat? There's bio buckets for if there's like a medical event, but who's checking for that? How can you even know?
Well, I think that this raises more of a big question about the use of steroids in sport as well, especially when you look at regional competitions. I've been to a few and I've fought against people who, weigh in at 6'2", 120 kilos of pure muscle. And you're there like, you clearly take some extracurricular supplementation on the side and no one's checking you for it. The issue is, it's not even like just big guys, it's people taking things like Glenbuterol, so their cardiovascular system is that much better than yours, so that they're not going to get gassed, things like that. I think if you're going to check for drugs, you need to check for all of them across the board, and I think it can be hard to regulate because obviously, I think if someone is suspected of being on drugs when they're fighting, 100% they should get checked, whether it is steroids, whether it's cocaine, marijuana, whatever it is. I think they should definitely get checked. I know it's probably a bit hypocritical because, I was, taking marijuana before fighting. But I also think it's not, you also need to put into the idea of the safety of the person who's taken the drugs and the person they're fighting against. Because in the idea of steroids, it's the person they're fighting against. It's a totally unfair advantage. That's why we have the weigh-ins for classes. But as you know, I fought in the heavyweight championships, and the starting weight was something like 89 kilos. The heaviest guy who fought that day was like 121 kilos.
It's the plus. The plus.
Yeah, the plus can go so high, and I think
some walls of women.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's like, I think there needs to be a little bit of look into that as well. But yeah, I think if you're going to be concerned about drugs, be more concerned about the ones that are actually going to hurt people more in fighting, which is steroids. Because I highly doubt anyone's, like especially a trained fighter, is going to take a line of cocaine in the bathroom and then go out to the mats. And I think even if they do, they'd get caught immediately. As I said, when we did marijuana, we did it very lightly, and it was just to relax us more than anything. And I don't think that put us at risk or anyone else, because our reflexes weren't impaired all too much. And yeah, we were just more relaxed. We won fights, we lost fights. It didn't give us an advantage or a disadvantage.
Some could argue that taking weed will slow you down.
Yeah, exactly. If anything, it's more of a detriment to yourself than it is to other people. Your reactions aren't going to be as fast. But with martial artists, our reactions are still going to be fast. The muscle memory will still be there. You
got fast twitch muscle fibers regardless of if your brain's working or
Yeah,
not.
Exactly. I've smoked weed before, went to the gym before and trained like that. So it's not like it was an uncommon thing for me to do.
If we're using your experience at the gym, I would argue that you are a fit person, but you are not a healthy person.
Yeah, 100%. I always say that I'm not a healthy person. I've got high blood pressure, pretty much year round, that is unmedicated because I just ignore it. Anyone who does bodybuilding typically is not a fit person, because you're bulking and cutting, especially if you're natural. You're putting weight on massively, then you're cutting the weight off. And back in the day, that's what I used to do quite a lot. So yeah, I don't say I'm a healthy person. I forget to eat meals. I eat too much, too little. I don't really care about my body all too much. I can still move, and that's all I care about.
I mean, good objective. I'm just thinking about what you said about regulating. If you're going to test for drugs, test for all the drugs and worry about what's going on there. It's the fact that I know a lot of martial arts tournament organizers. I've met them at events, I've socialized, I talk to them online, I do these interviews and people reach out to me sometimes. And I know that most of the people running these events are not event professionals. They are martial arts professionals, and events get cancelled because the local council won't give them a permit, so they can't get the insurance because the insurance wants the permit, but the permit wants the insurance to give the permit. They can get medics. They might call, I don't even know necessarily how they source some. Usually it's someone at their club is a paramedic, and then they get
know
them
a person who knows a person.
Exactly.
Like that.
Or they seek out someone specifically for that purpose, and they have one medic across 5 mats, and if 2 people get a knockout at once, you are kind of screwed.
It's a 50-50 on whether or not you're being revived.
So in terms of how we would screen for stuff and your opinion of let's worry about what actually is the problem drug, then you're entering the big debate about drug classes and purposes and stuff.
Yeah, I think
who's funding this testing?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's very underfunded. I think in general, my personal opinions on drugs are my own. I'm not going to share them on here because that's not for everyone else to know. But I think there should definitely be some level of screening. I don't know how they would do it. Even if it's just a case of after the fight, you find it a lot in powerlifting competitions. At the end of the competition, if they suspect that you've been abusing steroids to get to where you are, especially the natural ones, they'll get you to pee in a cup. They'll get you to drug test there and then. And I think that's the way it should work, because if afterwards it comes back that you have been abusing drugs, you're stripped of your title. It's kind of made a spectacle of almost. And I think that's what needs to happen in that kind of situation, especially, as I said, nowadays with social media and kids with steroids, it's becoming a lot more popular. I feel like it's pushed onto them a lot more to look a certain way. And as I said, not every steroid is going to make you look huge. But if you've got someone who is running 50 laps around the event hall before they fight, and then doing 5 rounds, and by the end of the last round, they're slightly out of breath, you need to be checking them for something. Like, you need them to pee in a cup and be there like, we don't know what you've taken, but physiologically, you should be exhausted right now.
Yeah, like that we have 3 energy systems and you should have exhausted them all.
Yeah, you should have exhausted at least 2. Your last one should be on the last legs. So I think anyone who kind of like shows any kind of like not supernatural, but like, you know, kind of like wipes the floor with everyone in their weight division to like an extreme level. Like, it's not even like a fair fight, or, you know, they've got like 1 or 2 close fights, but then 3 are just out the park and it doesn't make any sense. Then yeah, I think they should get drug tested. And drug tests aren't too expensive. I will point that out. If you go down to like your local supermarket, especially over in America, we get them for like in Walmart and stuff. You can get your 12-panel drug kits, all that kind of stuff, home tests.
Isn't Narcan over the counter now?
Oh, I think that's being changed. I think I saw something about this the other day, because Narcan is obviously, I think, isn't that what they use to fight against fentanyl?
Yeah, that's what I see it used against.
Yeah, so it's to save like fentanyl overdose, which is why I brought up the weed being laced with fentanyl, because that's started to happen a lot, like over here in the US quite a bit. So the administration, I don't know too much about politics, I won't go into this too much. It's kind of like a left-wing, kind of like off-field thing, but he's like underfunding Narcan now to emergency paramedics. So if someone's overdosing, they can no longer give as much Narcan because they don't have as much of it. But yeah, I think like I said, if you're taking any drugs, I don't think you should be fighting, which I know is hypocritical, but at the same time, I don't fight anymore. So I don't, you know, I can look back and realize what I was doing was a bit stupid.
So you think it was a bit stupid?
Oh, 100%.
Do you regret things?
Yeah, there are many, like, I regretted things the morning after. I had, like, anxiety attacks the morning after. I had panic attacks, depression, anxiety, the physiological and psychological effects of cocaine are something that I became very aware of very fast. So these psychological effects and physiological, so I was getting very anxious, very depressed. I was looking over my shoulder most times, you know, I was just very like paranoid almost. And this was like not while I was doing the cocaine, but afterwards, you know, and I was very aware when I had, like, I have high blood pressure anyway. I don't know if I did back then, but when I tell you that I could taste my heartbeat, like my head would be pounding, and I'd be so panicked about it and being like, oh, this is me actually going, like, I'm overdosing, I'm going.
I am actively dying.
Yeah, this is me actively dying. And then it was a case of being like, no, think about how much you've had, think about what you've done, you know, get some water in you, which once again is why it's so important. If you do any drugs, always do them in a safe space with people who are sober as well.
The only time I've really, like, done drugs is an edible. It was, like, the second edible I ever had before it actually worked. And all I remember is being fucking thirsty and wanting food shoveled it faster than I could like, you hear about the munchies, man. It was I fell asleep, like, while I was in the bathroom and woke up sort of upside down, trapped between the wall, which was terrifying.
Oh, edibles.
I was exhausted. And then I just woke up and went, feed me.
I think that is something as well. It's like, if you're going to do drugs, research it. Like, I remember being in the bathroom, once I realised that everyone was doing cocaine. I'd obviously done cocaine in the past, but many, many years beforehand. So I was instantly on Google being like, effects of cocaine. You know, what are the good effects? What are the bad effects? Obviously, the bad massively outweighs the good. Obviously, it does.
Does it? Shocking.
Shocking news, I know. But you've got to know the risks. Even if it's something as, like, marijuana, things like that, you need to understand what the risks are for it. But yeah, I would say that I've got a slight history of abusing drugs in that sense. Like even painkillers. Like I would say painkillers before fighting, before tattoos, because you can just deal with a little bit more. You know, it's small things like that.
So you're not a masochist.
No, like I hate pain. Like I hate it with like when I get punched in the face, I'm there like this life isn't for me anymore. I hate it here.
I'm that crazy girl who'll last smile back at you while I'm bleeding.
Yeah, like I'll do it right. I'll get punched, and then once that initial pain of like I actually hate my life right now has gone, I'll be like, all right, let's get back into it. It's okay. But yeah,
I smile while I'm training when it hurts.
like I just remember, like, just so many times getting punched in the face and being like, I just want to quit this. I don't want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing this to myself? Because I just have like. You've seen me fight before, and I just don't use my guard.
No, I think every single time I watch dudes fight, all my guy friends, I'm just like, God, your head!
Yeah, like, I just catch punches with my face. Like, I feel like that's just my best blocking technique, is just catching them in the jaw. Don't get me wrong, I've got an iron jaw. I think the closest I've got to being knocked down was when some guy, like, actually like 120 kilos of pure muscle went at my jaw. It was a gorgeous punch, I'll give him that. But my knees buckled. I was like, oh. But I got back up and was like, that's not going to happen again.
Did you fade out? Were you like consciously?
I was conscious, but like I remember feeling the pain, and then I remember my knee on the floor and my hand on my knee and like being in like this crouched position and just being like, where am I? Like, how did I get down here? It was like half a second between the two, but I was like, last split second, just nothing went through. Like, and then I was like, oh, I'm fighting. I've got to stand up and carry on. So.
I mean, that's the correct reaction when you're in an actual fight, so I guess good.
Yeah.
But not fun. Did you get this sort of reaction to pain when you were at sparring bar?
No, I don't think I did. Like, I think if anything, I just kind of put it aside. Because the thing is, as well, is even though it was guys and girls there was a lot of testosterone between us. You know, like, as I said, we're all first stands, we're all competition fighters. So that, like, we all had that competitive side to us. And as guys, especially when there's a girl in the room, you want to be the best looking guy there is. And I can tell you right goddamn now, I was not the best looking guy in that room. Physically, like, I think I was weighing in at like 90 kilos, but I was like 20% body fat at the time. You know, I wasn't shredded like these other guys, but I was there like, if I can just take punches like a man, then I'm fine.
I would love to contradict you. I cannot do that.
Yeah,
I am a sucker for a gold medalist fighter with a strong kick.
Exactly. Like that's the thing, is like I knew that I couldn't like win girls over with like how good I was as a fighter.
Don't even need to be attractive.
Yeah.
You have to win.
But I was there like, as long as I know that I don't get knocked down or knocked out, that's all I care about.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever get knocked out during one of your weed-induced matches?
No, never got knocked out for them. I don't necessarily correlate that to the weed. I just put that down to having an iron jaw.
Mm-hmm. Fair. So. Okay, we've been going for a little while now, so I feel like we should start winding this down.
Okay.
Since we seem to be consistently keeping the theme of drugs, intoxication, alcohol, inebriation during sparring, whatever, do you have any comments that have sort of crossed your mind but have not naturally come out yet?
I'd just say, as much as I said that it's not a good idea, it was fun. I'm gonna say that. I'm not gonna hide. Like, the thing is, I did it every single week for a good 6 months. Like, of course it was fun, but at the same time, you will always have repercussions. The more fun something is, the more dangerous it will be for you in the long run. And especially if you make it such a habit. So I would say, if you start experimenting with anything, inside the dojo, outside the dojo, whatever it is, take it steady, do it in moderation. Don't push yourself. If you see your friends, because when I first started, I saw guys putting down a gram and a half, and I was there like, there's no way in hell that I'm gonna do a full gram.
That is too much.
Yeah, I'll do like a line maximum.
Not that I know what a lot is, but it sounds like too much.
Yeah, it's too much. It's like a bag, like a full bag to yourself.
Oh my god.
But I was there like, I'll literally just hit a key, I'll hit one line, and that'll do me. And there was almost like this pressure to do more, because you'd see guys do a few lines and then go back for a few more lines in a little bit.
Is this another dick measuring contest?
Yeah, it's almost like a dick measuring contest. You'll see it with guys, like if you're in a weed smoking circle, like you don't want to be the first person to pull out and be there like, no more for me.
I've definitely seen that with all of my exes.
I'm going to say this now. There is no shame, and no one will shame you for being the first person to say no. And if they do, you should not be around those people. They could be your best friends. If they're pressuring you to do something that could endanger your life, they don't care about you. And that's something that you only learn through practice and through experience. So if this reaches just one person that's going through stuff like that with their friends and they're being pressured to do stuff that they don't want to do, great. Because you need to get rid of those friends. Like, I don't talk to the people that I did this with anymore. I still talk to the sensei every now and then, because he's not a right guy. But everyone else, I just don't go near. Because it's just for my safety.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. So,
I'm going to ruin a really nice closing point by asking a final question.
Go on, do it.
That crossed my mind while you were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And you say that this did improve your fighting ability to a degree while you were doing it.
Yes.
How do you think it would play into the technical elements of martial arts? Could you do a pattern better by taking some coke?
Probably not, no. We were a lot more sporadic, a lot more wild. Your motor neuron is, not the greatest. Your motor reflexes aren't as good. You think a bit faster, but it doesn't mean your body responds faster. It's just your headspace that's affected. At the end of the day, you can only move so fast. It doesn't matter how much cocaine you put in your body.
Some people would argue that my club does patterns way too fast by default.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with learning your patterns fast, but, know when to slow them down as well.
Mm-hmm. I am going to say now is a good time to wrap it up.
Mm-hmm.
The only resources I know for drug use is 999. So do you have any we could list in the description?
If you're in the UK, you have Ask Frank, which I believe is a NHS-based drug thing.
I feel like I've heard about that. Is it Ask Frank or is it Talk to Frank?
Talk to Frank, Ask Frank, something like that. Just go on Google and type in
Google Frank.
Like Frank UK drugs, and hopefully it won't come up with a person, it will come up with the helpline instead. But yeah, if you're struggling with addiction, if you're struggling with depression, anxiety, anything we've covered, just reach out to someone. The best thing I did was reach out to a friend actually, who didn't know it was all going on until it was much too late. And he was the one that kind of helped me out quite a lot.
That's nice. How did he do that?
He threatened to tell my mum. He threatened to tell my parents. So
that'll do it.
That will do it. Like, the fear of your mum will put the fear of God in your heart.
You'll never guess what Kevin was doing.
Yeah. But no, if you're struggling, reach out to people. There will always be people to talk, always be people to listen. And you're going to feel like people are going to judge you for this kind of stuff. They very rarely do. They just want to make sure that they're not attending your funeral. So look out for yourselves and look out for the people that you're with as well.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about this.
It's all right. It's been a pleasure.
I have been dying to record this for almost a year now.
I hope people enjoy it.
I feel like this is going to be a goodie. I'm not going to lie. If you would like to come on with respect and share a unique story relating to martial arts that would definitely get you banned from most dojangs, then please fill out the form in the description below. If you like this video or have any comments that I can hopefully answer for you, then leave a comment. And yeah. Hopefully you found this interesting. Please subscribe. Have a good day. Goodbye.